If you've been wondering how to play the Wandering Minstrel in cEDH, this is the video for you. How's it going, guys? Tim here. We've got finally our cEDH deck tech for the Wandering Minstrel. I put this together right before MagicCon Vegas, so let's go through the deck. We are playing exactly one town, so if anybody does want to read the entire card, that last ability could matter. But really, all we care about is the first line of text: lands you control enter untapped, and that we're 5 colors. So let's take a look at some of the packages in the deck and get you guys a deck list. We're gonna start with mana rocks first. Not a whole lot of them since we're a land focused deck. So we've got a Lotus Petal, a Mox Amber, a Mox Diamond, which is cool because in this deck, discarding a land is actually kind of useful. A Soul Ring, an Arcane Signet, and one or two other artifacts we'll get to in a little bit. We're going to go with our draw engines next. We've got an Esper Sentinel, a Mystic Remora, a Rhystic Study, and a Necropotence. This slot I've been going back and forth on between Necropotence and Ad Nauseam. Not quite sure which one I like more right now, so we're trying Necro out. We'll see how the deck list changes with that slot. Next, we will go with our mana dorks. Since our commander is 2 mana and 2 colors, we definitely want to make sure we have a mana dork on turn 1 or a rock that can produce a colored mana. So we've got a Birds of Paradise, a Delighted Halfling, a Noble Hierarch, a Deathrite Shaman, a Lotus Cobra, which can also help go through your combo lines, and an Elvish Spirit Guide. Originally, I had the Elvish and Simian Spirit Guide in the deck list. I took out the Simian Spirit Guide. It wasn't super helpful. There's not a lot of red pips in the deck. So yeah, Elvish Spirit Guide's great. It'll let you get a turn 1 Minstrel out, and it turns on a lot of stuff if you can get them out turn 1. We've got the rest of our creatures. This is a slot I'm also not sure about. We've had a lot of Kinnan in our local area, and I know it's been really popular in general. So I'm playing a Collector Oof right now. This slot has a few different options for it. Right now it's Boromir. It could be a Voice of Victory. It could be a Kutzil. It could be a Grand Abolisher. You can kind of play around with this slot. It is definitely a flex slot. Sowing Mica Spawn is great. It's a way to tutor out any land that you want, and you can hit opposing Gaia's Cradles, which are really popular right now. So this was a great inclusion in my opinion. We've got a Reanimate. It's a good catch-all for stuff. This is another flex slot. Kind of didn't know what to do here, so we've got a copy of Manamorphose, mostly to draw a card in a pinch. And then a Splendid Reclamation. I've never actually cast this card in any of my games, but it is pretty important just to have it available. Next, we'll go into some of our interaction pieces. So we've got a Veil of Summer, just to make sure we're protected. A Silence, which this is a really good deck to upkeep Silence. Let everyone use all their interaction. Go to your main phase, and then just start going through your loops after that. Whether or not the silence resolves, you don't really care, because your land combo doesn't actually really involve any spells. Into the Flood Maw is just a good kind of catch-all. You don't really care about giving someone a fish. And counter magic, we've got a Flusterstorm, a Pact of Negation, a Force of Will, and a Fierce Guardianship. Our other free commander spells in Deadly Rollick and Deflecting Swat. And then we'll get into our creature tutors and then into our lands and combo packages. So we've got all of our tutors here: an Invasion of Ikoria. Most of the time this serves as an extra card type for Delirium count. We've got a Diabolic Intent, a Demonic Tutor, Green Sun Zenith, Scapeshift, Nature's Rhythm, which is cool because you can cast it from your graveyard as well. Finale of Devastation, Intuition, and Gifts Ungiven, I think are insane in this deck. You can give people some really crazy piles with those. I know one of the first few games I played, I gave someone an intuition pile of Gaia's Cradle, Reanimate, and Aftermath Analyst. Basically gave them a combo pile that they didn't know what to do with, and they told me afterwards that that was one of the hardest intuition piles they've ever been given. So you can do some really cool stuff with this deck with gifts and intuition. Next we've got a Summoner's Pact, a Crop Rotation, Worldly Tutor, Court of Calling, and Vampiric Tutor to finish out our regular tutors. Our lands, there's a couple of them that are going to be in our combo specifically, so we'll go through all the rest of them. So we've got an Urza's Cave here, which can tutor for any land. We've got the fetch land base here, a Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire, Wooded Foothills, Windswept Heath, Scalding Tarn, Verdant Catacombs, and Misty Rainforest. Next is our dual lands. So I was back and forth on this quite a bit, of playing a bunch of duels or just one or two, and then a bunch of surveil lands, and I ended up with a low dual count and a higher surveil land count. So you really only need a dual land in the first couple turns. So we've got a Tropical Island, a Bayou, and a Savannah. The Savannah was a late addition because I had a game where I had a turn 1 Esper Sentinel, but I had no fetchable untapped white mana, so we added the third duel there. That count has been performing very well for me, so I'm happy with that count. And then we have all of our surveil lands. So we've got Underground Mortuary, Hedge Maze, Undercity Sewers, Thundering Falls, Meticulous Archive, Commercial District. And that is all of our surveil lands for this deck. They always enter untapped if Minstrel's in play, and they give you an extra benefit of, it says surveil, but really you're just going to mill the card because it helps you go through your combos. Our 5 color lands here are Command Tower, City of Brass, which I'm hoping to upgrade this to the Bougerba from the Store Championships, Mana Confluence, Lotus Field, another key piece into our combos, but also just really good when it enters untapped. Utility lands, we've got a Boseiju, an Otawara, we have our pre-game effects land in Gemstone Caverns. Strip Mine is a great card in this deck because even if you can't kill when you're going through your loops, you can Strip Mine everyone out of the game, and it basically kills them. This slot, I'm actually going to be testing out a World Tree instead of this Yavimaya. We'll see how that goes. If I don't like it, keep the Yavimaya in here. This is mostly so you can tap your fetch lands for mana after you've already fetched out all of your fetchable lands. We've got an Echoing Deeps and a Vesuva just to be able to copy lands that are in play or in your graveyard. Next we have our Flash Speed lands. These are super important Emergence Zone and Alchemist Refuge for going for instant speed wins. I had a game where I had an Upkeep Silence, a whole bunch of interaction, and I crop rotationed for an Emergence Zone on top of the whole stack, and then just went for a kill on top of everything. So those lands are super important in this deck. We've got kind of a weird one here. Probably won't ever see it outside of this deck. Port of Carfell from Kaldheim. This is cool. It's really mana intensive, but it lets you go for a second Thoracle, or you can go through Loomer lines again, or Lucre Analyst a little bit if you don't have a Shifting Woodlands. But again, it is much more mana intensive if you have to do this. And then we've got the 2 lands that we can kill with in Cephalid Coliseum and Mount Doom. This will effectively mill your opponents out. This one will shoot all of your opponents for a damage through each iteration of our landfall loop. Let's get into some of our combos now. So being a lands deck and being in at least blue-green, we have access to one of the more popular combos right now. in Talon Gates of Madara, Gaia's Cradle, Oboro Breeze Caller, and Thrasios. This lets you make infinite mana with these 3 cards by tapping your Gaia's Cradle for a bunch of mana, using 2 mana with Breeze Caller to bounce your Talon Gates to your hand, pay 4 to put it back onto the battlefield, and phase out all of your opponent's creatures, and then you can rinse and repeat. When you bounce the Talon Gates, it untaps your Gaia's Cradle. And then with the infinite mana, you can filter through your deck with Thrasios. We do need a backup plan because our main combo is kind of fragile, although it's very resilient, but it's kind of weird. You'd understand after playing a few games with it. There's a lot of moving parts to it just to get it going. So we do have the tried and true cEDH Thassa's Oracle with Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact, just as a clean, quick, easy way to end the game. With Gifts Ungiven and Intuition, we do get access to a full Sevinne's Reclamation pile. So we have Sevinne's Reclamation, Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, Brain Freeze, and Wheel of Fortune. The cool thing about this, and a slot that I may be trying out with Fairy Mastermind, is without the wheel, you can Fairy Mastermind loop, and in between each draw from Fairy Mastermind, you can Green Sun Zenith to make sure you always have a card in your deck, because Green Sun Zenith will shuffle itself in. So that's a really cool way to get around killing yourself when you're drawing everyone else out of the game. This is our first backup plan, is Lumra and Mirror Pool. Really popular in the modern format with Amulet Titan decks. This is here as our, oh dang, someone dealt with our Aftermath Analyst. Well, here's the same combo but with a big bear. And our main combo of the deck involves Aftermath Analyst, which when it enters the battlefield you mill 3 cards. That's cool, not what we care about here though. The main thing we care about is the activated ability to sacrifice itself and return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield. It does say tapped, but remember our commander lets our lands enter untapped, so there's no drawback to this. So the combo here is with Shifting Woodlands. You can crack your Analyst or just find a way to get in your graveyard. For 4 mana, you can make your Shifting Woodlands into a copy of the Aftermath Analyst in your graveyard. And then for 4 more mana, you can sacrifice it to put all of your lands into play. So you do need some effects to sacrifice the lands, such as Zurin Orb, or Squandered Resources, or I can't think of the creature right now. What's the 1 mana creature? Sylvan Safekeeper. I think that's also in this pile. So we'll get to those now. So we've got a Hermit Druid as a backup to just mill our deck out because we play no basics in our deck. And then here they are. Here are our land sacrifice outlets to go through our Analyst loop. We've got a Zurin Orb, Squandered Resources, and Sylvan Safekeeper. And that's the deck. That's how you play the Wandering Minstrel in cEDH. Let me know what changes you guys would make if you've tried the deck out at all. You can sleeve up this list. We'll have the Moxfield link in the description. And let us know what you guys think. We'll see you next time. Peace.